Follow the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on Twitter. Our call sign is @TTParliament.
The Honourable, the Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Clause 7.
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 7 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 7 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 7 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 8.
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 8 stand part of the bill. Minister, there is an amendment circulated on your behalf to Clause 8.
Again, Madam Chairman, this is a typographical correction where we're including the words in the first place where they occur. Let me see how that would read. It's the 19. This one.
Yeah, 19.
Just a minute, Madam Chair. I'm not seeing it. Is it in
Clause 5, sub 5.
sub 5? It's just the E?
It's the same amendment, but we had the new in 3 places, so we just put in things with the new in the first place, where it occurs.
Okay, I'm told that the word new appeared in 3 places. So you're simply putting in the new in the first place where they occur. So it's just a typographical correction. Where exactly does that go in? Where are you putting in the first? Where is okay?
No,
It's
you're
not
putting
here.
in the words, you're putting that in the bill. So in the bill, in the amendment bill. You're not putting in the words in the first place, you're in the act. It has had that in the bill.
Okay. So all you're doing is taking out the words "the new" and replacing them with the words "a new." All right. Taking off the words "the new" and replacing them with the words "a new." So it would read like it would. I know it confused me too. No.
Minister, perhaps you should just read how it will be read if the amendment is accepted.
If you look at the quotation marks end after the word "new." So in the first place where they occur is not part of the amendment. It's just explanatory. So it would read as follows: where a new building under this section stands on premises already assessed. Where in the past it was where the new building under this section stands on premises already assessed. So you're changing "the" to "a." That's all.
Senator Shriki Soon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the Honourable Minister. Just on the same clause, sub 5 of the of Section 19. It says here where a new with the amendment building under this section stands on the premises already assessed and entered in the assessment roll in force, the taxes payable in respect of the land for the unexpired portion of the year in which it was erected shall be calculated upon the difference between the taxes assessed before the erection of the new building. And I'm asking the Minister if he will consider the word completion rather than erection there of the building, and because the difference is before the erection of the new building and the taxes assessed after the erection of the erection of the new building, because the process of construction may take a while. So I'm just asking if completion, so that the taxes would be prorated before the completion and after the completion.
But you see, you may have a building which is effectively complete. And you don't have the completion certificate yet. You may not have all the approvals and so on. But it's still a substantial structure. So if I went along with your proposal, we could only charge for the land and not the building.
You would deem completion upon receipt of a completion
You'd have to
certificate.
define what completion is.
Yeah.
So that the erection means that there's a structure there.
Okay, because I was just of the view that it may have spanned a while.
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
So then
it means as the value is added to a building structure,
Right.
you adjust the taxes suit. Remember, you're doing this valuation every 5 years.
Right.
So this is just catching properties that are on the cusp of the 5 years. They
Okay.
straddle the 5-year interval. So one would think you should be able to finish a building in 5 years.
Okay, so
just
it
if
won't
if
be
you
that
cross
because the
over.
assessment notices are given out every year that it will change per year.
No.
So, okay, so once you have a value, it will hold
Yeah.
until...
For 5 years.
Okay, sure.
Okay?
Except that if you add a building, then they can come in and value the enhanced value of that property during the 5 years. And that's when you'll prorate. Yeah?
Okay. All right.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 8 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The amendment has been accepted. The question therefore is that clause 8 as amended, as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 8 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 9.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 9 stand part of the bill. There are two sets of amendments. Senator Mark, we will move with your amendment first. Let's discuss it.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I have made an amendment, or we on this side, I should say, have suggested the following amendment to Section 9, 1A, 1A, subsection A, to delete the words 60 days in the event of an overpayment. You overpaid, the board of, you have made payments over and above what you were supposed to make to the Board of Inland Revenue, and they are saying that they will refund you within 60 days. We are suggesting on this side that we reduce that to 15 days, because clearly and so on, this is a serious imposition on a citizen. And to demonstrate what I mean by this, Madam Chair, if you go to the Parent Act, in Section 21 of the Parent Act, if there's an overpayment, the Parent Act suggested that refund be made forthwith. So it means that you must take urgent steps to make that payment within a reasonably short period of time. But I could not interpret forthwith to mean 60 days in that regard, Madam Chair. So I am suggesting, unless this property tax administration is going to be a nightmare in terms of its bureaucracy, and therefore its inefficiency will be very glaring. And in those circumstances, I'm suggesting to the Honourable Minister that if I overpay, please pay me within 15 days and not 60 days. And I think that is a reasonable time for the government who has my money to return it to me within 15 days. And that's a reasonable period.
Well, if Senator Mark, if you read the bill itself, you see where there's an overpayment, the board refunds in 60 days. And where there's an underpayment, the taxpayer pays within 30 days.
Yes.
So how you reach 15?
No, I am making an amendment to your...
I know.
Yes.
The taxpayer has 30 days to pay the underpayment. How you reach 15? So that means that the government would refund somebody who overpays in 15 days, but somebody who underpays refunds in 30 days?
Yeah, well, that's a reasonable arrangement.
Why?
Don't you find that's a reasonable arrangement?
No.
Yeah, that's a very reasonable arrangement.
I don't find so.
Very reasonable arrangement.
Honourable Minister, could we harmonise at 30 days then?
Obviously. I don't know what kind of Senator Mark trying on me here. Make it 30. What kind of thing that you're trying to?
No, I think that efficiency demands that you give me back my money.
Well, then let the person pay in 15 days too.
Oh, yeah, well, let's harmonize.
But you have to be
15,
reasonable.
15.
So I would either go 60-60 or 30-30. 15 days is a very short period of time.
Okay. Well, the minister is willing to go for 30 days. I would like to go for 15 days. So let them put forward his amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a query about Section B. Can I read that now, or you want to deal just with Senator Mark's amendment? I have a query with Clause 9B.
Sure.
2.
You want to just raise it?
Sure. Thank you. I wanted to raise the points of the 6% per annum that would be charged to the person who has to pay the property tax. Now, the state, if they have to pay this after the deferred, they would be paying at an interest rate of 15%. And I find this is a little bit unfair. So I would like to harmonize that. So either you put the 15% here, or you put the 6% in Clause 21. So you understand Do I need to further
It's
explain?
not normal, you know, there's a principle with respect to taxation that the government needs to get its revenue to provide goods and services to the population and to service the country. So that in all income tax legislation, you would see penalties of 15%, sometimes more, as amnesties have been given with respect to tax payments. Sometimes the rates, the penalties are increased. It is not normal because it's two different philosophies applying here. The 6% is what the person would, the best rate the person would get in the bank on their money. But the 15% is a penalty, so that the 6% is compensation for the government holding your money for a period of time. And you're getting a better rate than the bank rate. But the 15% is a penalty. So it's not the same thing.
Okay, so in clause 22, we're looking at the refund, right? In relation to, that is clause 9B2, that deals with refund, and you're giving them a 6% back on their money that you have held.
Yes.
Right? So you're only giving them 6%.
Right.
But I'm saying that now if I owe the government for property tax, I'm now going to be charged at 10%.
That's the point I made. That
right, good.
Tax avoiders or people who don't pay tax
Would have a 15%.
have to be, no, they are charged a penalty. So the 15% that the government imposes on late tax payments is a penalty. The 6% is not a penalty. It is compensation for keeping somebody's money for a period of time. It's not the same thing.
I understand it's not the same thing because I
Therefore, the
understand
rate
the
can't be the
penalty
same.
and the refund.
But that's not normal. Normally, penalties are far more than the interest that you would pay on a refund.
For example,
the 15% is a deterrent against people avoiding tax. Throughout income tax legislation or tax legislation, there are examples of penalties which are much higher than what the bank rate would be. So the rate that you have to pay the government is as a deterrent. The rate the government is paying you is to compensate you for having taken too much money from
but
you.
Minister, you do know that there is a penalty of 10% added already, and you're adding a further 15%.
Yes, if that is also commonplace in legislation, tax legislation, the Treasury needs the tax revenue, otherwise you can't run the country. So you have to have penalties that escalate as time goes by. They must have that.
Minister, that wouldn't be a double penalty now because you pay 10% and then 15%.
That happens all the time.
Well, why we don't reduce the 15% to the 6% also?
But I just explained that.
Yeah, but then you'll have a double penalty because you have the 10% you're paying plus the 15%.
That is standard in tax legislation. You want to encourage people to pay tax.
I understand that, but you know how much taxes you impose already.
All right, so senators, at
This
this
is how it's been
stage,
for the last 50 years,
this stage,
including under the last UNC government.
Minister, please. Honorable senators, the question is that clause 9 be amended as
Intervene
circulated.
before you. I'm so sorry, I couldn't
Yes.
catch your attention a moment ago. In relation to the proposed amendment to clause 9, clause 9, in sub-clause 1A, the suggestion is that payment should commence, the refund that is, within 60 days of the date of the new notice, and I wonder whether the minister could confirm that it is the date of the notice that he means or the date of service of the notice upon the taxpayer.
Next part of the clause.
Say that again?
That form of words appears in the next subclause as well.
In B?
Yeah.
Yes, so my question is it that you mean to make that distinction that it is the date of the notice and not the date of service of the notice?
Well, if you go above, look at 9A1.
Yes.
You see it's the issuance of the notice?
Do you want to read where is a change or variation?
No, look at 9A.
Yes.
Where there is a change or variation in information,
Yes.
yes, you're right, it's that one. In respect of land for which tax liability has been imposed,
Yes.
the board shall forthwith amend the assessment rule
Yes.
and issue a new notice of assessment.
Good. And
So
now
that this notice here
Yes.
flows from that notice up there.
Thank you. But my confusion, if you want to call it that, is in 1A, 1 capital A. It says, where as a result of an amendment to the rule, there has been an overpayment of tax due, the board shall, within 60 days of the date of the notice, refund.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether you were clear on it is the date of the notice or the date when the notice reaches me.
No, look above. This is what I'm trying to explain. This new notice here is the same as the one above. Look above.
Okay, I'm still not clear. So
the board shall forthwith amend the assessment roll,
yes,
and issue a new notice.
And having issued,
so this new notice below here,
yes,
is the one that has been issued by the board.
Good. And my question is, when does the period of 16 days begin to run? Are you insisting that it is the date of the notice?
The date that the notice is
or the date
issued.
the notice reaches the taxpayer?
No, the date the notice is issued.
Very well.
So it will either be the postal rule or hand delivery.
So I come to 1A small b now. And it says, where as a result of an amendment to the assessment rule, there has been an underpayment of tax due, the additional tax shall become due and payable.
Right.
I didn't grasp the concept of an additional tax.
Yes, if you haven't paid.
If you haven't paid, you pay an additional tax? Or is it the unpaid or unremitted tax that shall become due?
Well, it can be.
Can be what?
That the property has been improved. So it's not an underpayment per se. It's a new assessment. Look at the top there, 9A, where there's a change or variation in the information in the possession of the board in respect of land for which tax liability has been imposed. Let's say you have a annual taxable value and you are liable to pay $1,000 for your property. But then the board discovers that you've just changed your 1-bedroom house into a 10-bedroom house. They will issue a new notice, and there will be additional tax associated with that, additional to the tax that you were originally assessed for.
That is very clear to me. Now, if the variation in the information does not necessarily mean that new additions have taken place, but simply we've now found in the information provided to us an error, and we've had to vary it, and the error has led us to the conclusion that you have not paid all the tax you should have paid. Am I required to pay an additional tax or merely to remit the unpaid tax?
No, you have to pay additional because your requirement to pay tax flows from a notice. So that you've received a document from the tax authority telling you the tax on your property is $1,000. And then the tax authority does a further, they may send that out without doing any field investigation at all.
I see.
And then they come along and realize, well, you know, this is not the same property that was there 10 years ago. They will issue a new notice, and now you have to pay additional tax, additional to what you would have been paying on the old notice.
It's now very clear to me. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank you, Chair.
I am very glad.
Now move to vote on the amendment as proposed by Senator Mark. The question is that Clause 9 be amended as circulated by Senator Mark. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no.
No.
The amendment has not been accepted. We now move on to the amendment as circulated by the Minister to Clause 9. Minister.
Again, that would be typographical, where previously it was subsection 1, and now it is subsection 1A, because the subsection that this part of the bill flows from is in fact subsection 1A. So just correcting an error.
And Minister, are you further amending in terms of the 60 to the 30 days?
Yes, we make it 30-30, so that would be 21A. An overpayment of tax due, the board shall within 30 days. What did it?
You have this already?
The next one?
Okay. this is the full response.
Yeah, what happened is Soldier dropped the ball and it approved the new board.
Senators, the question is that Clause 9 be amended as circulated by the Minister and further amended at 1A by deleting the word 60 and substituting the word 30. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 9 as amended has been accepted. The question therefore is that Clause 9 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Clause 9 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 10.
The question is that Clause 10 stand part of the bill. Minister, you have circulated an amendment.
Correcting a typographical error, and that would be amending Section 21. And in Section 21, where is it? Where's the change? Where is it?
Subsection 5.
Okay. In Section 21, subsection 5, it previously read, the board shall serve notice on the objector of its decision, and we're changing that the board shall serve notice on the objector of the final and conclusive assessment. So it's just correcting the language.
Honourable Senators, the question is that the amendment as circulated by the Minister, the question is that Clause 10 be amended as circulated by the Minister. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Chair,
the question therefore is that Clause 10.
I hope I haven't missed my cue.
I think you may have, Senator.
Yeah.
I think you may have. Is it Clause 10?
It is Clause 10.
Okay. Members, please, I ask, if anyone wishes to engage and to have my attention, please put on your mic. I keep looking up all the time before I put the sections to the votes.
Do forgive me.
Senator Prescott, you're forgiven, but yes.
Thank you so much. It's for the Minister in for Clause 10 at E, which reads, if I may, in subsection 6, by deleting the words in respect of an incorrect assessment of tax, consider the objection and may either confirm, reduce, or increase the value, and substituting the words consider the objection and may either confirm, reduce, or increase the tax. This is the Commissioner has made a determination on someone's assessment, and he is now going to take steps to confirm or reduce the tax. I thought consideration should be given to notice of the decision taken being served upon the taxpayer. Should I try that again?
Just 1 second.
The board is reconsidering an assessment. An objection has been taken.
Page.
And the board's decision on that objection, no provision has been made for it to be served upon the taxpayer. He simply gets notice that he has to pay more or less tax. He may wish to challenge the Commissioner on his determination. Am I reaching the Minister?
Minister, page...
You want to repeat that?
All right, just 1 second, Senator. Minister, page 6 of the bill. I think we're at E. Is that...
I am at E?
Yes.
Yes. The E contemplates the board having received an objection and making a determination on that objection and simply confirming, reducing, or increasing the value. And I am suggesting that it might be fair to the objector if you were advised of the outcome by serving a notice on him of the determination. What it does is gives him an opportunity to seek further redress, and I don't know whether the board should feel that it is beyond further appeal.
So the way you read this existing law,
yes,
is that the board has the option not to inform the...
It does not require the board to inform him.
Subsection 10.
And so its observance might well be, it might be more observed in the non-delivery of notice. It's only fair to the taxpayer that he be...
Are you saying that the person, the board may have made a decision but not told the taxpayer, and the person doesn't know?
Except by way of saying your tax has been reduced or your tax has been confirmed.
But when he gets that, he can object?
Well, in that case, and I didn't want to have to do that, but the language of the Act could probably therefore be extended to say that this too is subject to appeal.
What is subject to appeal?
That determination by the board. Or judicial review, the one you don't like.
No, but when... No, I didn't say I didn't like it.
Judicial review?
I did not say I did not like that.
Forgive me, I thought you said you didn't like judicial review.
When I am served with an application either for leave...
I have withdrawn.
To apply for judicial review.
I have withdrawn so that we could get to the meat of it.
Because I don't want these kind of things to be said. When I'm served in my official capacity with an application for leave to apply for judicial review, or leave has been granted and I'm served with the judicial review application, I have to hire expensive lawyers. That's all I said.
I recall that
and
part.
Who likes that?
Madam Chair,
it's the lawyer's part, not the judicial review part.
Senator Prescott, Minister, please. Could we please deal, Minister?
Ma'am, may I just say that I've been making every effort to
Senator
withdraw
Prescott,
from that?
let me tell you what my difficulty is with what you are saying. When the board makes the assessment, the taxpayer will be advised.
Okay, but the Act does not enforce that upon him.
No, but how then would you pay the tax? You only pay tax by way of a notice that you get.
Senator Prescott, can I refer you to subsection 10? Does that address your
concern? The Act?
Of the same
of the
section?
bill?
Of the substantive.
Of the Act?
Yes.
It says yes, where the board is in receipt?
Yes.
Yes. It shall notify the objector of his decision. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, honourable senators, the question is that clause 10, as amended, now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 10, as amended, now stands part of the bill.
Clause 11.
Honourable senators, the question is that clause 11 stand part of the bill. Honourable senators, the question is that clause 11 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 11 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 12.
The question is that clause 12 stand part of the bill. Senator Mark, there is an amendment circulated on your behalf.
Yes. Yes. Madam Chair, like the Minister of Finance, we have a fundamental policy position on this matter. We think it very difficult and very challenging for citizens who have reached the age of 60 or 65 to be subjected to this onerous property tax that the minister and his government, and the government I should say, are seeking to impose. And it comes at a time when the government has sought to amend the relevant section of the Act that would have given, some relief in the way that the framers had contemplated providing those reliefs at the material point in time. So the government has now proposed a deferral arrangement as outlined in their section 12 of the Act. And I don't have to repeat that for you. What the government is seeking to do is to allow all retirees to submit an application. And as I said, we have no evidence of the application at this time. The prescribed form that is coming in the form of regulations. The minister hasn't indicated to us when those regulations will arrive.
But Senator Mark, could you speak specifically to your proposed amendment?
Yeah, my proposed amendment says that the board shall exempt all pensioners from any payment of property tax in respect of the residential rate of 3%. And therefore, I do not believe retirees should be subjected after they have made their contributions to the Treasury. And Madam President, you know when you get your pension, it is taxable. So when you get your pension and it is taxable, how would you be calling on me at the age of 65 years to pay a 3% on my asset at a reduced rate? And then you are telling me I must go cap in hand to bureaucrats at the Board of Inland Revenue. Who?
Senator Mark, I think we understand the nature of the amendment that you have proposed.
So we are saying fundamentally, Madam Chair?
Yes.
We are not in favor of any pensioner being asked to pay a property tax at the rate of 3%.
Senator Mahabir?
Yes. Madam President, Madam Chair, and to the Honourable Minister, this is similar to an amendment I had raised previously, and I fully understand the Minister's argument that there are pensioners who really are pensioners of means. So what I would like for the Minister to consider is whether, in order to minimize the bureaucracy involved, he would consider that pensioners who are in receipt of a pension of less than $5,000 a month be exempt from the tax. And this will cover all recipients of the old age pension grant who already have passed the means test. Recipients of the NIB, NIS alone, there may be only one pension to receive from the NIS. And so it will minimize the need for all of these people going to clog up the system at the BIR with respect to passing the means test. They would already have passed it, you see. And so from a policy perspective, I just want the Minister to consider whether he will exempt individuals earning, say, less than $5,000 a month from pension from paying this particular property tax. Thank you.
Minister.
I think the point is worthy of consideration, but I would like to look at it in a little more detail, because what are we really talking about? Recipients of National Insurance Pension, recipients of Senior Citizens Grant. So I think it's a very good idea to remove any bureaucracy associated with this tax, but I'd like a little time to do that, and I think my record speaks for itself whenever I give an undertaking to this House that I will return and make an appropriate amendment, that I have done so. And I give you that undertaking. Let me look at it. I think it makes a lot of sense, because those people would quite naturally, if all they're getting is Senior Citizens Grant, then they would certainly immediately qualify for relief. But let me take a look at it, and I'll come back on that. I give this undertaking. Okay?
Senator Shriki Soon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, and with respect to this clause, the Section 3 of it was initially repealed and replaced with a new amendment. But in the old Section 3 that was repealed, a certificate was granted, and I thought that even with the new section, the relief that's being granted under Section 23.3, if it was possible for the certificate to still be issued for as a demonstration that the exemption, whatever form it may take, would have been granted, so that at least the taxpayer would have a record of the exemption.
And I have no difficulty in principle with that. Let me just consult.
Section 26(3).
It supersedes 23.3. 26.3, oh sorry, you don't have the Parent Act. Oh. You have the Parent Act? Look at 26, Section 26 of the Parent Act. And we are going to be,
Actually, that is...
we are in clause 13 of the bill before you. Look at clause 13 of the bill before you. So what it does, the board shall issue a notice in writing of any decision to grant, vary, or revoke an authorization issued under Section 23. So when the person gets the decision, they'll get a notice because they're being granted an authorization. Okay? So it's no longer, 23.3 is no longer relevant. All right? And I would also like to say something, and I think also recipients of disability grants as well. You know, that's why I need a little time to look at it. Let me look at all categories of impoverished persons who should automatically be exempt from property tax. That's why I need a little time to come back. And also disabled people and so on. Not just people. No, you may have people who can't qualify for disability grants. They're right on the borderline in terms of income.
Minister, would you want to indicate to this committee a time frame? Because we don't want this thing to be open-ended. Would you want to say, well, within 3 months of the passage of this bill, you shall return to this House, having given consideration to Senator Mahabia's point, to deal with the bureaucracy, to come back with an appropriate amendment in order to address this matter?
And just looking at the timing, you know, we have this mandatory recess now. And
Honourable Minister, before the end of the third session seems reasonable. We take the recess, you come back in, and because it's an important social matter.
Okay.
Before the end of the third session, I think it's very reasonable.
Okay. Right. Before the end of the third session.
Senator Mark, are you pursuing your amendment? Of course. Fine. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 12 be amended as circulated by Senator Mark. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. Clause 12 has not been, the amendment to clause 12 as circulated by, the amendment to clause 12 as circulated by Senator Mark has not been accepted. The question, therefore, is that clause 12 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Clause 12 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 13.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 13 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 13 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 13 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 14.
The question is that clause 14 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 14 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 14 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 15.
The question is that clause 15 stand part of the bill. There are amendments circulated by Senator Mahabir and Senator Mark. Senator Mahabir?
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, when I read clause 15, I really thought there was an error, but the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance indicated that this was deliberate policy. What concerns me again is efficiency and operationality, in that it says that someone who has objected to his assessment and who is dissatisfied with the board. So the assessment is done by the Commissioner of Valuation. He or she will then make an appeal to the Tax Appeal Board. But you see, when we debated the Act to Amend the Valuation of Lands Act, and we debated at length the composition of the tribunal, we saw that the tribunal was really meant to eliminate the backlog of cases in the Tax Appeal Board. I suspect that there will be a lot of these objections, and I am not sure if it is going to the Tax Appeal Board after debating the tribunal, the Valuation of Lands Act, whether we will be defeating the purpose of efficiency. Because, Madam Chair and Honorable Ministers, when I looked at the calculations are all based on assessment. And the tribunal, the Valuation Tribunal, is supposed to deal with assessments. And the only disputes I see coming out of that is whether someone miscalculated 1%, 3%, 5%, or 6%. And the calculations are simple and straightforward, and they are based 100% on the valuations. So I don't see why it is that the Tax Appeal Board is going to have to be burdened with these disputes when, in fact, it's a simple arithmetic issue of the Valuation Tribunal handling it as well. And so we eliminate whatever backlog there is with respect to the Tax Appeal Board, and we put all of these matters into the hands of the Valuation Tribunal.
I have to look at it, because you're quite right. The only dispute that should arise is a calculation error. But the Valuation Tribunal, I have to look at what its powers are. It may not be empowered to look at taxes. So again, when I come back to deal with the pensioner issue, I'll deal with that. Because I'm not sure when we created the Valuation Tribunal, we empowered it to look at taxes. We empowered it to look at valuations.
But Minister, I don't know if that was understood when we debated the Act to Amend the Valuation.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it was understood that that's what they would do.
So what I may have to do is bring an omnibus bill that amends the Valuation of Land, that one clause in the Valuation of Land Act, and the clause with the pensioner, so that we can include this. Because I think we have to go and look at the powers and functions of the Valuation Tribunal. I don't think, and I'm advised by the people to my left, my Treasury Solicitor and so on, that the Valuation Tribunal is not empowered to look at tax. Okay? But so we may have to change their powers to allow them to look at tax. Okay?
And maybe the composition too.
Based upon the Minister's response,
and I'll do that before the end of the session.
Yeah, I withdraw my amendment and I await the Minister's response. Thank you.
Senator Mark, I made a mistake. You have no proposed amendment, eh? Yes. So, Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 15 now stand a part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 15 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 16.
The question is that Clause 16 stand a part of the bill.
Madam
Minister,
Chairman,
yes.
consistent with a recommendation made by Senator Prescott, we are changing the word collected to received in Clause 16 of the Parent Act. Clause 16 of the bill, which amends Section 31 of the Parent Act. So we took out that troublesome word collected and replaced it with received. Senator Prescott, you good with that?
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 16 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question, therefore, is that Clause 16, as amended, now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 16, as amended, now stands part of the bill.
Clause 17.
The question is that Clause 17 stand part of the bill. The question is that Clause 17 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 17 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 18.
The question is that Clause 18 stand a part of the bill. Minister, you have circulated an amendment.
Just 1 second, madam. Why are we changing this from September?
September when the time is supposed to be until March, penalty and interest penalty and interest starts around the middle of March.
Okay, I'm advised that the tax is due in September of the previous year, and this is giving a person 6 months grace to pay the tax, whereas the original act had given them 1 year's grace. So we thought 6 months is reasonable. The penalties don't start to kick in until after 6 months after the tax is due and payable. So we're changing it from September to March.
Senator Raful.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. This one, the wording on this, I find very similar to the Parent Act. So the amendment to the amendment would be almost the exact same as the Parent Act. So I'm wondering why we don't repeal this section and just revert to the Parent Act itself for this one. It's a bit unclear, so I'll just clarify. So the Parent Act says, to be specific, this is about the date after which penalties and interest accrue if the taxpayer hasn't paid. So what the Parent Act says is that if the payment isn't made by September 16th, well, I guess it'd be September 15th, then from September 16th onwards, the penalties and interest would accrue. Then the draft amendment bill changes that from September 16th to the 15th of March. And then the amendment to the amendment replaces September with March. So the ultimate effect, to my interpretation, is just going back to what the parent bill says, which is March. And also, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be March of the current year or March of the following year. My understanding is the notice of assessment is due from the Board of Inland Revenue to citizens by the 15th, the 31st of March in the calendar year. And then the payment is due in September, and then the payment, the penalties and interest accrue from the March in the following year. And the way this is wording, it doesn't make any reference to March in the following year either. So the two questions are, is it supposed to be March in the following year, and is that not exactly what the Parent Act is already saying?
I could give you a short and a long answer.
Whichever's better for you.
The short would be no.
Okay.
But let me just read for you the amended Parent Act. If Section 33 of the amended Parent Act would read as follows. The annual tax due and payable in respect of every land shall be paid to the board on 30th of September in every year. And that is Section 17. We just changed. Yeah, I know, but you have to start with Section 33 of the Parent Act, because Clause 17 of this bill before us changed the date that the tax is due and payable from March to September. So the tax is no longer now due in March, it's due in September.
Yes.
So having done that, Section 33 would read as follows. The annual tax due and payable in respect of every land shall be paid to the board on the 30th of September in every year. Okay, so you start off having an obligation to pay the tax on the 30th of September. Now we go to 34, and the amended act would read as follows, that where any amount of tax is not paid on or before 15th of March, the further sum of 10% kicks in. So it's due in September, and then obviously it will be the next March. I don't think you need to add March of the following year, because it's due in September. So the penalty, and then you say the penalty kicks in from March. So it has to be the following March.
Okay.
Follow what I'm saying?
Sure. Just
okay.
So we don't have to specify of the following year because it's understood.
But you don't need to say that, because remember it's due in September. So if a penalty kicks, if the penalty can't kick in March before, because it's not due. The penalty doesn't apply until the due date has passed.
Okay.
Okay?
Senator Hussain.
Thank you. Minister, respectfully, I too, when I read it the first time, I didn't see it was very unclear to me, and also Senator Raful, so I see no harm in actually just including the words of the following year after the 31st of March.
May I say that I too think that it would be very, may I say, Chair, that I think it would be very helpful to the reader of the legislation.
Yes.
Notwithstanding that it might appear.
Well, in the original act, it was like this. The annual tax due and payable in respect of every land shall be paid to the board on or before 31st of March in every year ending on the next ensuing 31st of December. And then it went on to say, where any amount of tax is not paid on or before 15 September, the board shall cause a notice of non-payment to be sent to the owner. So it was, there was no reference in the original act explaining that it's due in September and then the penalty kicks in from March of the following year. It seems to me to flow. I mean, we can put the words in if you want.
I think you should.
Okay, so what words you want to put in? Okay, so we would add the words in the following year after the words 15th of March in 34.3 and also in 34.1. 34.1. Okay? I don't understand that, but I going along. Senator Prescott, I going along. I mean, if it's June, September,
Minister,
and then the penalty kicks in
Minister,
March.
I know
going along.
Minister,
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you're going along. Senator Prescott, I know that everybody is putting forth suggestions, but it is extremely difficult when we have to now incorporate non-circulated written amendments. It gets a little difficult, and we are having some difficulty now adjusting. So we have the clause, the amendment proposed by the minister and circulated to clause 18. That stands from what you are saying, Minister, and now you're going to add a further amendment?
No. I'm going to amend what is here.
Okay,
so
let's have it.
So that the amendment to clause 18 would read as follows. Delete paragraph C and substitute the following. C in subsection 3 by deleting the word September in each place it occurs and substituting the words, plural, March in the following year. But you sure it's not going to work here? Because they just want to know when to pay it? They just want to know when to pay it? Yeah, but the penalty is the penalty. So then what about here too? You have to put it here too? Yeah, because it seems that whenever the word March crops up, I was going to put it in the penalty area, but if you all want to put it everywhere, no problem. Pardon?
You can just include it in the 3 places where March appears.
Okay, Madam President, we'll have to do it. I'm not going to argue over that. It turns on, nothing turns on it, but it's okay. So that what 18 would be, yes, Senator Roach, you're absolutely right, it is superfluous, but it's all right.
No. Let's hold on here. I just want us to be very clear as we go through. The Minister, you're accepting the recommendations, and therefore let's just have, I took one form of the amendment.
No, you'll have to, they're now asking for whenever the word March appears,
okay, so
they want it in the following year.
So can you just dictate?
So I'll come again.
Yes.
So so let's forget this amendment, and then the new amendment will read as follows. That's 18. Section 34 of the Act is amended.
You want me to write this?
No, hold on, I'm just looking at what we're doing. How do you read the amendment?
You have 2 amendments.
How does the amendment be read? Let's come back to this, madam. Let them sort it out and we'll come back.
You have to have 2.
We'll come back.
Clause 18 is stood down for for further consideration.
Clause 19.
The question is that clause 19 stand part of the bill. Question is that clause 19 now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 19 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 20.
The question is that clause 20 stand part of the bill. The question is that clause 20 now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
Madam Chair.
Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Yeah.
Members, at some point in time, I have to stick with the program. Okay, so I call it, I look up, I look down, I then call out. So we've already taken the vote. Is it something you wanted to change, or is it just a question? Minister?
Which amendment?
With clause 30, section 36, clause 20.
In the bill?
Yeah. If when you impose the amendment, the words "and 3 months have elapsed since the notice," you should have deleted. You should have just take out "and" at the beginning of that, and before the words 3 months, because "and" will appear twice.
Where's the I only have one "and" in mind. Where's the other 2 "ands"? Oh, you didn't put it in consolidation? Okay. Just 1 second.
Sure.
So just take out the "and."
Take out "and" from the bill.
Okay, so I would propose an amendment to clause 20 of the bill by deleting the word "and" before the word 3.
Clause 20 revisited.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 20 now stand part of the bill. No, the question is that clause 20 stand part of the bill. The question is that clause 20 be amended as follows, to read as follows. Section 36 of the Act is amended by deleting the words 6 months have elapsed since the same became due and owing, and substituting the words 3 months have elapsed since a notice of non-payment under Section 34 has been sent. So we are deleting the word "and."
Correct.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question therefore is that clause 20 as amended now stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 20 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 21.
The question is that clause 21 stand part of the bill. Minister, you have circulated an amendment.
Yes, that's again just to deal with an error. The amendment to the bill would have read as follows. So you take this out here, that shouldn't be out. It shouldn't come out. You have it strike through.
Yeah, everything is being deleted. The bill, whatever amendment was, we forgot to delete this, so we deleted it.
Okay. In the Parent Act, the words that are to be deleted read as follows. Controller of accounts, district revenue officer, or other person to whom same ought to be paid. And in the bill, the word officer was left out. So we're just putting it back in. That's it. Just a typographical correction.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 21 be amended as circulated by the minister. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 21 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 21 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 22.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 22 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 22 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 22 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 23.
The question is that clause 23 stand part of the bill. Senator Mark, an amendment has been, you have circulated an amendment as well as the minister. So, Minister, will you just indicate what your amendment is about?
The amendment is intended to clarify and make certain the policy of the government that the tax will only be collected in the year that all of the administrative arrangements are completed. We are still hoping to collect tax in 2018, and therefore we are extending the waiver of the application of the tax to the end of December 2017. Well, the appropriate month in 2017, so that the tax would now kick in 2018. And we're still hopeful that we can complete the administrative arrangements in this year. If we can't, then we will have to amend again to include 2018. But we think it's premature. It's premature to to waive the tax for 2018 at this point in time.
Senator Mark?
Well, we want to fundamentally disagree with the Honourable Minister.
Well, you know you don't like the tax at all.
We on this side would
2025
want to be consistent with the original bill that was laid in this Parliament, where the government proposed the 30th of September 2018. That was the original bill that was laid in the House of Representatives.
But not in the Senate?
It was laid in the House of Representatives. And the Honourable Minister amended it, as you know, Madam Chair, to September 30th, 2016.
What about the other amendments?
Now, what the Honourable Minister is now proposing is that we go to 2017. We are fundamentally opposed to that. And we are advancing that this matter, the administrative nightmare that he spoke about, is there. And it makes no sense coming back to this House, knowing fully well that you're not going to have the administrative structures in place for this tax and then to amend it further. So, Madam Chair, we are proposing to save the minister and the government time and let them do their work properly. We are proposing that we stick to his original legislative amendment, that is the 30th of September 2018.
Madam.
No, before I call on you, Minister, is there anyone who wishes to say something in respect of either of the amendments proposed? Senator Raful?
Thank you. If we do keep it to 2017, the moratorium, then for 2018, is it possible that we extend the dates for the notice of assessment? Because currently in the legislation, it's the 15th of March or the 31st of March. So that date has already passed. Is it possible we can change that to September or October or some other point in time in this year? Because citizens would have to pay it at the latest by 15th of March 2019. So it is still possible to have the collection by the 15th of March 2019, but because the notice of assessment has not been able to go out by the legislated date. Maybe we can change that today.
Any other questions or comments? Senator Prescott?
I wonder whether the Minister and Senator Mark would consider that in the clause 23 of the bill, we should instead say, and substituting the words 30th September 2017 or such later date as the Minister may by notice declare.
That's a wonderful suggestion.
I'm grateful to you.
I would go along with that. Agreed.
When you say notice, Senator Prescott, would that be subject to that matter coming to the Parliament?
I was trying to avoid that.
There's no need for that.
Yeah.
We're waiving the thing. There's no need for that. That makes it easier. I agree, Madam President, with that proposed amendment. But you don't have to agree.
We on the side would want to ensure that we lock down the Minister. And we are proposing the 30th of September, 2018.
All right, so Senator Hussain, you want to say something?
Yes, Madam President, because I don't agree with, respectfully, with Senator Prescott's proposal, simply because we must remember what happened in the House of Representatives when the date was changed from 2018 to 2016. So I think we need to maintain parliamentary scrutiny with regard to the date of the waiver for the property tax.
Madam Chairman, can I talk now?
Not just yet. I am just looking to see if there are any other comments. Senator Raful?
I think Senator Prescott's suggestion is excellent because it allows, we can't predict in advance when the Board of Inland Revenue will be ready and when the evaluators will be ready and when that 50% threshold will be achieved. So if we can have the flexibility in the wording that Senator Prescott suggested, I would support that.
Minister.
Madam Chairman, how many times have I heard Senator Mark say, what happened in the other place is irrelevant? You can't have your cake and eat it too. We made many amendments to the bill in the other place. Are you objecting to all of them or just this one? The policy that the original bill in the other place had 16 or 18 as the case may be, how can it be that Senator Mark, at the top of his voice, in the last 15 or 20 years he has been here, has said he doesn't care what is done in the other place, now begin to care? I totally agree with the most excellent suggestion of Senator Prescott. Could we vote on this, please?
Yes, Minister. So I will now put the amendment as proposed by Senator Mark to the vote.
And I'm advised by the legal drafts people that it should be by order. Well, not by notice, by order.
Okay, but let us deal. So
sure. So I would like to amend my amendment.
But let me deal with Senator Mark's amendment first.
Oh yes, let's get that out of the way.
So the question is that clause 23 be amended as circulated by Senator Mark. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
No. A division, please.
Mr. Khan? No. Mrs. Gopiskun?
No.
Mrs. Batiste Primus?
No.
Mr. Rambarat?
No.
Mr. Sinanan?
No.
Mr. Moses?
No.
Mr. Kazim Hussain? Ms. West?
No.
Mr. LeHunt?
No.
Dr. Henry?
No.
Mr. Singh?
No.
Mr. Cummins?
No.
Mr. De Freitas?
No.
Mr. Duki?
No.
Mr. Huggins?
No.
Mr. Mark?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes? Ms. Amin?
Yes.
Mr. Saddam Hussain?
Yes.
Mr. Ubika?
Yes.
Mrs. Zakur?
Yes.
Dr. Mahabir?
No.
Mr. Roach?
No.
Mr. Small?
No.
Mr. Shrikissoon?
No.
Ms. Ramkissoon?
No.
Ms. Choate?
No.
Ms. Raful?
No.
Mr. Richards?
No.
Mr. Prescott?
No.
Results of division 24 voted against. 6 members voted for. 0 abstention.
Honorable Senators, the result of the division is as follows. 24 members voted against the proposed amendment. 6 members voted for the proposed amendment and no one abstained. The amendment has therefore not been accepted. We now deal with the amendment as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Minister, you have some further words to add?
Section 52A of the Act. Yeah, I know I'm looking at 52, but anyway, let's not worry about that. 52A. So the amendment would read as follows. Delete the word 2016 and substitute the words 2017 or such later date as the minister may by order prescribe.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 23 be amended as circulated by the Minister and further amended to read as follows. Delete the word 2016 and substitute the words 2017 or such later date as the Minister may by order prescribe. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question therefore is that clause 23 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 23 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 24.
The question is that clause 24 stand part of the bill. There are amendments circulated. Senator Mark.
Yes, Madam Chair, we are into new territory, I believe, and the Minister would recognize that there are a number of important matters that would have to go into these regulations, and because we are into new territory, we are suggesting that this matter be subject to a full-scale debate, that is the regulations, and hence the reason we have proposed that the matter be subject to an affirmative resolution. And as you know, Madam President, Madam Chair, sometimes these notices come out based on what I've seen here, and they could escape our eyes. And in this instance, I know that the Minister in another incarnation was very firm on being in the affirmative mode in another incarnation, in another time, and in another place. So I really would like him to be consistent with that kind of position. And therefore, I ask him for this particular matter. Maybe later on we could deal with some other thing, but on this one, because it's rather new, I would ask him to consider supporting the position of an affirmative. Madam Chair.
Minister.
Firstly, Madam Chairman, this has nothing to do with the regulations. The amendment proposed is to 53A, amendment proposed by Senator Mark. It has nothing to do with the regulations. Just let me make that clear. Because we are dealing with 53A. The regulations are in 53.1. It's all right. You had your time to talk. Let me talk now. Let me also say, in the inimitable style of Senator Moses, I cannot associate myself with anything you have said. I don't know what you're talking about in another place, in affirmative. I cannot associate myself with anything you have said. Thank you, Senator Moses, for that very excellent phraseology. Now, let us get to the meat of the matter. What I am proposing here, Madam Chairman, is that I like that phraseology. I can't associate myself with anything you said.
Minister.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Let's go now to our proposed amendment, and let me explain our proposed amendment to Senator Mark. Perhaps he can see things our way. The important and fundamental schedule that would impact upon people is Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is the rate of tax. And I am proposing an amendment, before we deal with yours, I'm proposing an amendment that would make any minister responsible for taxes required to come and debate a change in the rate. So if we're going to change 3% to 1% or 5% to 4% or 5% to 10%, as the case may be, the minister will have to come and amend that schedule by affirmative resolution. So that's very important. So that one is affirmative. But I really can't see if we're going to be changing state enterprises. We make state enterprises every week. We just made one last week. So that if every time we create a state enterprise, we would have to come to Parliament and debate by affirmative resolution the inclusion of that state enterprise in Schedule 4. That makes no sense. So therefore, I am proposing that the important schedule, which is the rate of tax, any change to that be subject to affirmative resolution. But the other schedules, such as the list of state enterprises, be done by negative resolution. And I hope that will allow you to see our way.
Well, certainly I'm not seeing.
Okay.
All right. But, Madam Chair, I want to apologize because I did, in fact, went ahead of myself. But I don't want to detain the House, the Senate, but I just want to indicate that we remain firm on our position on the affirmative resolution.
No problem. But we believe that the only thing that really needs debate is the rate. If someone has an objection to us including, we did a new state enterprise, what we call it, the upstream, downstream energy company. If we just created that a month ago, if we have to come to Parliament every time we create a state enterprise, do a full debate in both houses to add that in the schedule, that is a waste of parliamentary time, precious parliamentary time. So I cannot agree with your proposal. I am of the view that if we want to change the rate of tax, that is something that should be subject to the scrutiny of both houses, but not whether we're adding in a state enterprise or taking it out, as the case may be.
Senator Hussain.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Minister, just on a point of clarification, I noticed only some state enterprises were listed in Schedule 4. Now, what is the criteria that the government uses in order to determine whether or not a state enterprise is exempt from paying the property tax?
Advised by Minister West that she did explain this, the Honourable Senator explained this. These are state enterprises that are not for profit. For example, National Commission for Self-Help is not intended to be profitable. These are not state enterprises like Petrotrin that generate revenue. So this is our National Gas Corporation. So that in the main, all of these state enterprises that are in the schedule are not expected to generate a profit, and we would not be imposing a tax on them. But the profitable ones, we would impose a tax on them. Okay.
All right, so Honourable Senators, I will now put the amendments to the vote. question is that Clause 24 be amended as circulated by Senator Mark. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no.
No.
The amendment was not accepted. The question is that Clause 24 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question therefore is that Clause 24 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 24 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 25.
The question is that Clause 25 stand part of the bill. Minister, you have an amendment.
Yes, Madam Speaker, but we could always debate it by affirmative resolution if Senator Mark wants us to. How about that? Yes, Senator Mark? What do you have to say? You want us to debate the inclusion of Chaguanas Borough Corporation by affirmative resolution? I'm happy to do that, you know. I'm happy, you know.
Senator Ramkisoon.
No, let's say Chaguanas Borough Corporation subject to affirmative resolution.
Senator Ramkisoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask the Minister, in Schedule 4, there are different boards like engineering, architect, management of students, and all these boards have a fee, just like the trade unions that we spoke about earlier. Why have you exempted them? Because it will fall in the same argument of why not excluding the trade unions, because they are paying a fee and their members can't afford. So why now exempt them when they could afford?
Particular case of the Board of Engineering, that is created by Act of Parliament. It's not for profit. Even though you collect fees, an entity can collect fees, it can generate income, but it's not for profit. So that's the objective, not for profit.
Senator Chu.
Well, Honorable Minister, it just came to my mind. What about the Law Association?
Pardon?
What about the Law Association?
You want to put it in?
Yes.
No problem. But let's do it by affirmative resolution. That was a joke. So let's add, so to my amendment, Madam Chairman, I'd like to add Law Association, which would go after...
Of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, which would go after Land Survey Board, am I right? Well, alphabetically. Oh, it's not alphabetical, apparently we could put it anywhere, but let's put it legal aid and advisory. Let's put it up. Oh, okay. No problem. Yeah. Okay. People's National Movement.
But they have no such a power because they have no property.
Is that close?
Yeah, they get choked.
Madam Chair, before you put the questions before us, I do just want to ask the Minister, even though these are not-for-profit organizations, you don't want to narrow the tax base, and that's why I am asking that these lists don't be extended excessively, that you are putting the burden now on the population that has to pay property tax.
That might be why we left out the Law Association. I'm just joking.
But there are others. There's others like Firearms Appeal Board and Land Survey. But there's a lot of boards and stuff that here that we're not sure if it is not.
I can assure you it will be done on a case-by-case basis, and we'll look at it very carefully before we add anything.
Yes, thank you.
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 25 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance and further amended to include Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 25 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 25 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to revisit Clause 3,
Yeah.
before we go to new clauses.
Right.
3.
Yeah. Minister, just to tell you, there are two clauses that have been deferred, Clause 3 and Clause 18.
Yeah, I have 18 as well.
Okay.
So if we could go to 3. 3 has been, the amendment has been circulated.
Clause 3.
So let me just look and see what this is doing.
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 3 stand part of the bill. Minister, you wish to speak on the amendment. We've already heard from Senator Mark on his proposed amendment. Could you discuss?
Well, this was just an agreement with Senator Mark to delete capital value. So what we did is just redrafted our original amendment to add in delete capital value. So we had an original amendment. If we go to the original page, we had this original amendment, and we're now putting in this.
So you're withdrawing that original
Yeah,
amendment?
yeah, yeah.
And we're dealing with the amendment circulated on list number 2.
Yeah. So we're taking out the entire clause in the bill and putting in this new clause here, and the only change is capital value and the word "and." Previously, the amendment just added the word "and." Now we take out everything and put in a new clause, which includes the word "and" and deletes capital value. Okay?
Minister, with respect to the point with the industrial land, the residential land, and the commercial land, you said that you would have looked at that on the backdrop of the Valuation of Lands Act. With respect to the Schedule 1 of the Property Tax Act.
Just a minute. So how are we going to deal with it? So he's saying the fact that in the definition of land we have industrial land, residential land, but in the schedule we just add in the word land. We'll add the word land in the schedule. Okay?
Okay.
When we get to the schedule.
Okay.
So are we at the schedule? Not yet? I thought we were by the schedule, you know. So we'll have to go back to it. Or it's up to you. If you don't want to go back, I'm good, you know.
Deal with that. Let's deal with clause 3. Please,
All right.
Senator Mark, you've heard the minister's contribution with respect to his proposed amendment. Are you proceeding with yours? Just 1 second. Let me just. Sure, Senator Mahabir, therefore, yeah.
So are you referring to the new clause that I'm proposing, Madam?
No.
Okay.
Clause 3.
Original clause 3.
Clause 3 we are dealing with.
Right. No, I have nothing.
Okay. We deal with the new clauses after we finished.
Madam Chair, by the time they discussing, from the minister's amendment, Part B is deleting the definition of capital value. What was the reason for deleting this?
It shouldn't have been there. That was the one where I said I have to pat my head with lime call because Senator Mark was right.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that's where we were. Thank you.
Yeah, in light of the explanations offered by the Honourable Minister, we shall be withdrawing 3. Okay.
So Senator Mark has indicated that his proposed amendment to clause 3 is withdrawn. So the question is that clause 3 be amended as circulated by the minister. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question is that clause 3 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 3 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 18.
The question is that clause 18 stand part of the bill.
To meet the requirements of honourable senators will be as follows. In paragraph A, insert after the word March the words in the following year. In paragraph C, insert after the words March the words in the following year. And then we have to use the original amendment as well. That's delete September in each place it occurs and substitute the word March in subsection 3. So the original amendment stands in subsection 3 by deleting the word September in each place it occurs and substituting the word March. And then in paragraph A, add the words in the following year, and in paragraph C, add the words in the following year. Okay?
Senator Ramkisoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to know if the Minister would like to consider for subsection 2, a notice under subsection 1 shall be sent by registered post 2 months prior to the 15th of September to give persons time so they don't wait for the deadline.
18?
Yes, it would be 18B, subsection 2. So you have, in your amendment, you have deleted 2 and 1. So I'm just asking if you can consider just adding the words. A notice under subsection 1 shall be sent by registered post 2 months prior to the 15th of September.
Where? Okay, so 34.2, but that doesn't form part of this clause we're looking at, you know. That's something completely different.
No, we're looking at section 34 of the Parent Act, part 2. If you're looking at your amendment,
all right,
it's 18.
okay, but we weren't looking at that at all, but we can look at it now. So 34.2.
The reason is to give the public time to pay your tax on time. So if you don't want to put the 15th of September, we can use the 16th of March.
I think you're kind of this notice here.
This is why the tax is not paid and you're serving the notice.
But when would it be required to be paid? By March, right? So if it's not paid by March, you send them a notice. But when does the tax begin to kick in?
15th. If the tax is in September, they have 6 months without interest and penalty, and only if they don't pay after that 6 months do they get a notice.
So we have to notify somebody that they haven't paid their tax? 2 months before? You have to tell someone you haven't paid your tax?
Oh.
This is not a notice of assessment, you know. This is just informing the person. You had 6 months to pay this tax. You didn't pay it, and now interest will apply. Why should I tell you 2 months before?
Waiting on the deadline date to
No,
tell them.
you already have 6 months to pay. You're supposed to know, because you got the thing 6 months before.
You got the notice 6 months prior to this, and
so again, do you want 2 notices? Do you want it at 6 months? You want it at 4 months? That's what you're effectively saying. You know?
yes, that's what
That
I'm
doesn't, in my view, that's very bureaucratic. And if you put that in there, What happens if the thing comes 1 month before or something like that? I don't think that's going to work. That's adding a layer of bureaucracy. Because the person already had a notice that they got 6 months prior, and they know they have 6 months to pay. So respectfully.
Yeah, and ideally it should really be for the assessment. It really should be.
Yeah, you're talking about before.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Thank you. All right,
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 18 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance and further amended at subclause A by adding the words in the following year after the word March, and in subclause C1, CI, by adding the words in the following year after the word March. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The question therefore is that clause 18 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Clause 18 as amended now stands part of the bill. Minister, you wanted to revert to an item that we've dealt with? We now, after this, we move on to the new clauses proposed.
I think we've handled everything, you know. Oh, the schedule, sorry, I'm sorry. The schedule, just to add the word land after commercial, industrial, residential, agricultural. Just after the words commercial, residential, industrial, agricultural, wherever, in Schedule 1. Just add land, the word land, after the words. Let me get the exact.
Could you just tell us what clause, please?
It's not a clause, it's a schedule.
The schedule, there's Schedule 4 in the bill, which is introduced by way of clause 25.
Right, so in clause 25 of the bill, we want to, that's not a paragraph or something.
May I remind you that clause 25 was also already amended. This is the amendment that had been proposed on your behalf. Chaguanas Borough Corporation Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
So let's go, maybe we should revisit the amendment then.
Yes.
So
but when we revisit the clause, we will revisit the amendment.
So what I'm proposing is that in the schedule,
yes,
in the proposed Schedule 4, sorry, in the proposed Schedule 1, we're not changing Schedule 1, are we?
Yeah, Schedule 1.
Yeah, so in the proposed Schedule 1, no, we're not changing Schedule 1.
Minister, is that a proposed schedule?
We're not changing, this is not a proposed Schedule 1, you know. We're amending Schedule 1.
So therefore, that is going to be a new clause.
Correct. Quite correct. So I didn't need to revisit anything.
No.
Came from you, eh? You know that, eh?
So, Minister, in the meantime, can you just draft your new clause? We will deal with the other new clauses
they will draft
have
it
been
for me.
circulated.
Okay.
Yeah.
New clause 3.
This is the Prescott Amendment.
No.
The 3A?
No, 3. Before we get to 3A.
No, but 3A comes in. We put it in at 3A?
Yes, I knew.
Oh, you have, a 3 without an A. Okay.
The
It's 3
question
without
is,
A. Senator Mahabir.
the question
This
is
is you.
that new clause 3 be read a second time. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no.
When you say
I think
read.
the ayes have it. New clause 3 will now be read a second time.
New clause 3.
Yes, Madam Chairman. Now let me.
No, this is Senator Mahabir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Senator Mahabir has proposed a new clause 3. You have proposed a new clause 3A. Senator Mahabir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, there's a mischief that I would like to address, a potential mischief. And that is, it is common knowledge, the Minister, of course, knows better than most what the state of a deficit is for 2018, but we've been running deficits now for the last 10 continuous years. And my concern is that the revenue that if this bill is passed, will then be used and will get lost somewhere in the consolidated fund to pay whatever we have to pay. But the reason I propose the amendment that the property tax should be used exclusively to finance the operations of local government bodies in Trinidad is that the property tax, Madam Chair, is a peculiar one. What we are doing is that we are taxing a stock. It's a wealth tax, independent of the ability of the property owner to pay. It is assumed, and this is something that Senator Ramkissoon had alluded to, that someone with property has a flow, but he or she may not have the flow. And the justification for this tax in all jurisdictions with which I'm familiar is that the property owners, and the minister alluded to it too, that all property owners do derive benefits. They derive benefits from the locale in which their properties are located. And so to ensure that the property tax itself is not used to pay the country's foreign and local debt obligations or gets lost somewhere within the central government, I am proposing that we dedicate the revenue from the property tax to the financing of local government bodies in Trinidad. I have excluded Tobago because Tobago has its own arrangement of some 4.1% to 6.9% of government's revenues. So that since we have that particular formula for Tobago, I am proposing for consideration that the entire property tax collections be placed into a dedicated fund, similar to the Infrastructure Development Fund or a fund such as the Unemployment Relief Fund, something like that, where it will then be at the disposal of the Minister of Local Government to then redistribute to local government bodies to ensure that the equity criterion, that is the benefit criterion of the tax, people who pay the taxes in certain locales are guaranteed, independent of the fiscal deficit of central government, they are guaranteed to obtain a certain level of services financed by these particular taxes. And in my mind, that will ensure that there's an equity base to this particular tax. Thank you very much.
Senator Raful.
Thank you. I'd like to support Senator Mahabia's recommendation.
Senator Obika.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to support the recommendation and also to add that failure to do so would really ensure that the property tax becomes a disincentive to add value to one's property. If the tax is in place, it actually provides incentives for communities to ensure that their peers, their neighbors, pay the tax. And it also helps in terms of attaining 100% catchment of the tax. Thanks.
Senator Richards.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Senator Mahabir and Senator Obika in terms of this, or percentage of this tax being allocated to those local government bodies, especially in light of the fact that if it's a carte blanche approach nationally, there are some regional corporations that are more densely populated than others. And Minister West, in her wrap-up, spoke about the fact that when we were speaking about the squatting situation, government is supplying services, and that's a rational justification for the tax. But in many cases, the services are abhorrent because of the lack of funding for these regional corporations. And this would help take care of that, even if not all the tax, a significant percentage of it should be allocated in legislation to those regional corporations to fund the services that the Minister spoke about.
Minister. Oh, Senate, no, before you answer, Senator Amin.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, while I lean towards supporting this particular amendment proposed by Senator Mahabir, an issue would come up with the amount of taxes collected in different regions based on things like commercial and industrial activities. You have an area like the Point Lisa estate and others that would have a lot of industrial activity, and the regional corporations do not have the responsibility to do maintenance works in those areas. And I want to make a suggestion. I don't know if Senator Mahabi will consider it. Instead of all the taxes going to the regional, well, the local government body, the regional corporation, that maybe all the taxes from all residential properties to go towards the regional corporation, or something like that, because the purpose of the tax would then be to maintain the areas that the regional corporation is responsible for. And it also includes the business centers. So even commercial should be considered. But we must have a way to determine, because as I say, the industrial estates at Arima, the E-Tech Parks, the Point Lisas, they are not maintained by the regional corporations. So perhaps the taxes collected from industrial buildings, industrial property, could go to central government, while the taxes collected from residential and business, commercial, could go to the regional corporation for that fixed purpose. And I remember years ago there was something called the Road Improvement Fund, where they would take the RIF tax at the pump when you purchase gas. And the purpose of that was to pave roads within the regional corporation. And every year the corporations would get an allocation out of that RIF. I'm sure the minister would remember that. Right, so that was in my early days as a councillor that came to an end. But
I think the gist of your recommendation.
So, yes. So I want to ask the minister, because there would be an implication when we consider the local government reform that we have been told that is coming. But I want to ask the minister if we could make some provision here and now that we could further speak to when we deal with the municipal corporations amendments.
Senator Prescott.
Thank you very much, Madam. May I, through you, ask Senator Mahabir, for my own edification, and because Tobago does not appear to be represented on this bench, why is he making that distinction between Trinidad and Tobago in the proposal? I know that we seem to be collecting property taxes in Tobago, and the amendment is to be limited to Trinidad only. Thank you.
Just 1 second. Senator Obika, anything further to add to what you said?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Basically, I just wanted to add, and to see if Senator Mary could consider looking at a percentage of this money that goes to local government bodies should be for infrastructural upgrades, so that they won't be just throwing more parties with the extra money they have, but they'll be having maybe fire hydrants and roads and stuff in the community. So a percentage, maybe 50% for infrastructural development.
And finally, before I ask the minister to respond, Senator Mahabir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I did not know there was going to be such interest in this amendment. With respect to Senator Prescott's query, the THA Act already makes provisions for the financing of the Tobago House of Assembly, and that comes under its own special law. It is for this reason that I deliberately excluded Tobago from the amendment. With respect to Senator Amin's concern, it is my position that this property tax is coming first, when it should have come after local government reform. All of what Senator Amin has said makes a lot of sense, but the property tax literature, the property tax experience in all jurisdictions is replete with examples of transfers from one corporation to the next. They have provinces to the have-not provinces, the movement and the shifting of funds, so that we do not have to place in law now these various riders to the uses of the tax. What was of concern to me is that we are passing a law, or there's a law for consideration, in which there is no specific indication as to the uses of this highly peculiar and idiosyncratic tax. And so the raison d'etre of the amendment is to place in law that the particular tax, because it is peculiar, because it is a tax on a stock, will follow international norm, the norms of equity, and that we say it is for the financing of local government operations. It is left, of course, for the government to accept or not to accept the recommendation, but also, if it is to be placed in the law, there is nothing preventing us if we come to local government laws reform and any local government bill, we can always determine the mechanics of how, in fact, this particular tax is going to be implemented at the local level.
Previously, I said I would have to sop my head with lime alcohol because I agreed with Senator Mark. I think I'll have to go to the doctor now. Because Senator Amin, that was a most excellent contribution. So I think I'll have to go and probably a specialist. a heart specialist. Now, the crux of the matter was ventilated by Senator Amin. The reason why we can't go along with this, Senator Mahabir, but I'm not shutting the door, is precisely the point that Senator Amin made. You have a corporation like Kuva Tabaki Talparo, in which the Point Lisas industrial estate would be based. That would be a super rich corporation because of the amount of money it would be collecting from the methanol plants and so on. But that's not even the best example, because that's a big landmass that stretches from, I think, La Hoqueta, Talparo, and goes all the way down. But Point Fortin is a tiny little corporation. If you look at the boundaries of Point Fortin, it's tiny. Yeah, but it's very small geographically, and not much people either. But it has Atlantic LNG in it. And Atlantic LNG is probably going to be the entity that will pay the most property tax in the entire country. So if we went along with this, we would find corporations where there's no industry or no significant commercial activity would be disadvantaged, because all they'll be able to collect would be agricultural, which is only 1%, or some residential. And then you have super rich corporations, like the Point Fortin one is the best example. Tiny little corporation will probably collect more than Port of Spain when you did this. So it's not practical. So what we have decided to do at the level of the cabinet was to start with residential. But we didn't want to put it here into this law. We're going to put it into the local government law. And I'm giving you that undertaking now, that we've made a policy decision that we will start with residential, tax on residential properties will be for the account of local government bodies. And let me make another point. In Tobago, and Senator Prescott, he's gone? All taxes collected in Tobago are kept by the Tobago House of Assembly. So whether it's value-added tax or corporation tax or whatever it is, they're kept and they're deducted from the subvention. That is the point I wish to get to. Because currently this country spends billions of dollars on local government. And I don't know the number now. I know it used to be 2. I feel it's 3 now. That is about $3 billion. I don't know if Senator Hussain? About $3 billion, right? So currently, the central government, from collection of taxes, corporation tax, individual income tax, royalties on oil and whatever, value-added tax, sends $3 billion to the local government corporations. It is highly unlikely, virtually impossible, that property tax would ever yield anything close to $3 billion. It might yield 300 million or 400 million at the best of times. So property tax could never finance local government. It cannot. Local government bodies will always require subvention from central government. Property tax just cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, ever finance local government. So all this does, it gives local government bodies cash flow, as happens in Tobago. Because when the Tobago House of Assembly collects value-added tax and quarterly returns of corporation tax and so on, they get cash, which they can use for their operations. And then when the subvention is sent to them, at the end of the year, we have to do a very complex reconciliation with the Tobago House of Assembly and audit exactly how much tax they have collected, and that is deducted from their annual subvention. So that there's tremendous merit in what you're proposing, Senator Mahabir, but we have to work out the logistics of the thing. And we're going to start with taxes on residential properties, because we know there is no corporation that where the tax on residential properties might be more than the subvention. I could tell you 0.14 property tax might be more than it requires to maintain the infrastructure. And then the further point that Senator Amin made, that local government corporations are not responsible for industrial estates, for example. That's the responsibility of ETEC at this point in time. So you would have one body responsible for the maintenance of infrastructure in an industrial estate, having that obligation, but another body collecting the tax for the industrial estate. And that's why I said I would have to go to the doctor, because I would have to agree with Senator Amin.
Just respond briefly, Madam Chair. The position, Honourable Minister, with respect to corporations which are well off and corporations which are not, is old established. There is the transfer mechanisms that is established. People in local government will tell you about the Warren Oates hypothesis and so on. So that is not a problem in that.
It is.
Okay.
That's another country.
Okay.
There would be war. War would be declared between one corporation and another. If one corporation had to take its money and transfer it to another, I'm telling you, civil war would break out.
Okay, but let's not go along the line of wars,
That could work in America.
Because there are jurisdictions in which there are interconnected services and so on, and therefore there is going to be a need for minimum services and transfer. So that much is worked out. But what is of issue to me is that the amount of revenue that can be collected is, in my mind, significant when we assess all 700,000, I don't know how many properties we have in Trinidad and Tobago, with proper valuations and with up-to-date assessments. I think that we are going to collect a significant amount of revenue, and it may very well be that the financing requirements of local government may be more than met by the property tax. And therefore, if in fact, you see, we can't say at this time, because we don't know what the valuations are, we don't know what the 3% it will yield, the 4%, the 5% on industrial. There is an estimate, but without a proper valuation, we cannot know. And it is in this context, I know you're saying you're studying it, and I don't know when we are going to see local government legislation in the Senate, but we do need to look at how the revenue derived, including from industrial sites, can be used for the benefit of the residents, including corporate residents in the country, independent of the state of central government financing. That is the concern that I have, that deficits have been with us for the past 10 years. They are going to be with us for a while longer. And in order to ensure that people on the ground are well serviced, I pose my amendment. So it's
no, but I'm just making the point. You've made my argument for me, because you've said you never know that property tax might exceed the requirements of local government. And when that happens, what do you do then? Do you tell them send it back to central government?
It's well worked out. It's well worked out. When you have an excess, you can in fact review the rates, review property rates, or you could increase the services.
Senator Mahabir, who is doing that review? The central government is going to review when the local governments become so profitable that their collections exceed their requirements. The minister now will intervene from top down and review the rates?
Local governments will decide what their projects are going to be. It is all about local government and giving the powers at the level of the ground.
Precisely why this issue should be dealt with in the local government legislation.
Right. And precisely why, Minister, that legislation should have come before, so that at least I would know what you are doing in this one.
All right, so members...
I'm going to give an undertaking because members seem to have forgotten that I gave an undertaking to come back here before the end of the session.
Right.
So I'll give an undertaking. As complex as it appears to me, I think we could say residential tax and we have no problem. Because we know that could never exceed the requirements of a corporation. Okay. But all the taxes, I just can't see it. But I can give an undertaking when I come back to deal with the pensioners and so on. I'll handle that at the same time. Okay.
Senator Mahabir, in light of that, are you still pursuing new clause 3?
I will withdraw and I await the minister's return to the chamber.
So, new clause 3 is withdrawn by Senator Mahabir.
Okay.
Chairman, Madam Chairman, before you move on, I want to ask the Minister if in considering the recommendation for the residential property tax to go to regional corporations, if you could also look at the commercial as well, because many commercial buildings are within town centres maintained by the regional corporations.
I accept that, but we had a look at it. We have been studying this quite comprehensively. And we felt that if we went to commercial as well, you might get to this situation where some corporations might be better off than others. So I give an undertaking. I will look at commercial as well. But we've already looked at it. We know that residential, it'll be okay. Yeah. I'm not sure about commercial.
And another suggestion could be for
Senator, we need to move on to the other clauses.
I just wanted to capitalize on the good mood of the minister.
I understand.
And make one tiny recommendation. Another suggestion is that the commercial tax from all corporations could be collected, pooled, and evenly distributed.
Now you're looking for trouble. But anyway, no problem.
New clause 3A.
The question is that new clause 3A be read a second time. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. New clause 3A will now be read a second time.
New clause 3A, building or accommodation to be deemed land.
Minister.
Where am I? You have a different thing to me. Okay.
It's in the list number 2.
I know. I'm trying to figure out why we didn't.
Senator Prescott wanted you to separate it out from that.
Oh yes, this is the Prescott amendment, where we just have a big 3A. Senator Prescott?
With the chair's permission, I do wish to make an inquiry.
Sure.
In 3AC, the use of the term multi-owner, is the focus really on ownership? Or what if we were to say a single commercial accommodation is part of a commercial complex?
It's on ownership.
Is the focus on ownership?
Yes.
So that it must be owned by more than one person?
Yes, in this particular case, yes, because if it's owned by one person, it's covered in another part of the act.
I am accepting that that might be so. Thank you.
Okay. Problem.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Minister, if you're creating this new clause 3A, would you have to now delete what was there in section, and what would have been amending section 3 in the bill?
We're not going with that amendment.
So we wouldn't have to expressly delete it in the bill?
Let me just get clarity on that. Do we have to take out those words? That's what I thought. So it's not necessary to... It was dealt with before when we amended clause 3. Okay? This is a new clause 3A. All right?
So, Honourable Senators, the question is that new clause 3A be added to the bill. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. The ayes have it. New clause 3A now stands part of the bill.
New clause 22. New clause 22A.
The question is that new clause 22A be read a second time. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. New clause 22A will now be read a second time. Minister?
This is just fixing up language where in clause section 40 of the bill, the words were no goods or chattel whatever belonging to an owner at the time and tax payable by him is in arrears, and we're just changing that to any tax payable by him. So that's the first one. So we're changing and tax payable by him and do the and has to the and.
No. Just
No goods or chattel whatever belonging to any owner at the time. At the time any tax payable by him is in arrears, shall be liable to be taken by virtue of any warrant of distress issued by any landlord, and we change that to person, landlord to person, because there may be somebody seeking to levy who is not the landlord. And we are taking out the words anyone authorized to levy a distress under section 37, so that only the Board of Inland Revenue now can distrain against somebody for taxes, nobody
Minister,
else.
we just have to resume the Senate to deal with some procedural motions.
That's fine.
So the Senate, this committee is suspended. We will now the Senate will now be resumed.
Should have been gone from here a long time.
Leader of Government Business.
Everything. Except that. Fire minister. Excuse me. Madam President, in accordance with Standing Order 14.5, I beg to move that the Senate continue to sit until the completion of the business at hand.
The question is that the Senate continue to sit until the completion of the business at hand. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The Senate will continue to sit until the completion of the business at hand. We will now revert to committee.
Yes. New clause 22A.
So the question is that new clause 22A be added to the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
Is it right?
The ayes have it. New clause 22A now stands part of the bill.
And Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the fact that, sorry, Madam President, Madam Chairman, that Senator Mark didn't see this, I'm actually correcting something that Senator Mark did not see.
No, Minister, we haven't gotten there as yet. We just dealt with new clause 22A.
I know, I'll go into 23.
And it has to be called.
Right.
Yeah.
New clause 23A.
The question is that new clause 23A be read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. New clause 23A will now be read a second time.
New clause 23A.
Minister.
So yes, Madam Speaker, Senator Mark had missed out the fact that regulations can be made without any action on the part of the Parliament. So I'm now putting in that regulations have to be subject to negative resolution of Parliament.
Honourable Senators,
right now I could make them without parliamentary
Honourable Senators,
oversight.
The question is that new clause 23A be added to the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. New clause 23A now stands part of the bill.
Have a new clause 24.
May I get some clarification on 23A? There is a committee called the Statutory Instruments Committee of the Senate. Is it that this committee is duty bound to be looking at these regulations in addition to the overall Parliament scrutiny?
I really don't know. But I mean, what I'm doing now is making sure that the regulations have to be laid in Parliament and subject to negative resolution. I can't speak to that committee, I don't know.
Just wanted to clarify whether, in fact, it would preclude the powers of that committee.
No, of course not.
Minister, there's another new clause?
Yes, and this is the one to deal with the issue raised by Senator Hussain.
Do you have it in writing?
I can read it.
Okay. Could you just
New
call it out
clause
then?
24A inserted. The marginal note, or the chapeau, is it called the chapeau? Marginal note. Schedule 1 amended, 24A. And I'll give this afterwards.
Just 1 second.
I'll give this to you afterwards, Madam President.
And you know that I'm going to understand your writing.
It's not my writing.
And you know that could you just read it, please? And then, yeah. Schedule 1 amended.
The Schedule 1 amended, 24A. The Act, and yes, you could understand this. The Act is amended in Schedule 1 by inserting A, after the word residential, the word land. B, after the word commercial, the word land. C, after the word industrial, the word land. And D, after the word agricultural, the word land. I tell you could read it.
New clause 24A.
The question is that new clause 24A be read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. New clause 24A will now be read a second time.
New clause 24A.
Is it?
Honourable Senators, the question is that new clause 24A, as read out by the Minister, be added to the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. New clause 24A now stands part of the bill.
Yes, I'll just have a check. We have to defer.
I hope so.
Question is that the bill as amended be now reported to the Senate. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The bill as amended will now be reported to the Senate. Minister in the Ministry of Finance.
I wish to report that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Property Tax Act, Chapter 7604, was considered in Committee of the Whole and approved with amendments. I now beg to move that the Senate agree with the committee's report.
Honourable Senators, the question is that this Senate agree with the committee's report on a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Property Tax Act, Chapter 7604. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Minister in the Ministry of Finance.
Madam President, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Property Tax Act, Chapter 7604, be now read a third time and passed.
Honourable Senators, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Property Tax Act, Chapter 7604, be now read a third time and passed. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no.
No. And a division.
Why are you so?
Just shoot.
Why are you so?
Came to vote. Mr. Khan?
Yes.
Mrs. Gopi School?
Yes.
Mrs. Batiste Primus?
Yes.
Mr. Rambara?
Yes.
Mr. Sinanan?
Yes.
Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Mr. Hussein?
Yes.
Miss West?
Yes.
Mr. Lee Hunt?
Yes.
Dr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. De Freitas?
Yes.
Mr. Dookie? Mr. Huggins?
Yes.
Mr. Mark?
No.
Miss Haynes? Miss Amin?
No.
Mr. Hussein?
No.
Mr. Ubika?
No.
Mr. Zakur?
No.
Dr. Mahabir?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mr. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Shrikisoon?
Yes.
Miss Ramkisoon?
No.
Miss Ramkisoon?
No.
Miss Chote?
Yes.
Miss Raful?
Yes.
Mr. Richards?
Si, señorita. Yes.
Mr. Prescott?
Yes. You didn't say anything.
23-7. Madam President, the result of the division is as follows. 23 members voted for, 7 members voted against, and there were no abstentions.
Honorable Senators, the result of the division is as follows. 23 members voted yes, 7 members voted no, and no one abstained. The bill has therefore been passed.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Property Tax Act, Chapter 7604.
Leader of Government Business.
23-7.
Madam President, I beg to move that the Senate do now adjourn to Tuesday, the 15th of May, 2018 at 10 a.m. in the morning. We will, during that very long session, we will be debating the Finance Supplementation and Variation of Appropriation Bill, more commonly known as the Mid-Year Review. And we plan to have a fairly long session. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Honorable Senators, before I put the question on the adjournment, leave has been granted for 2 matters to be raised on the motion for the adjournment of the Senate. Senator Mark.
Thank you very much. Madam President, the first matter I want to bring to the attention of this Honorable Senate deals with the National Insurance Appeals Tribunal. It has been brought to my attention, and I may be incorrect, the Minister will have to correct me if I'm wrong, that since April of 2017, no tribunal has been in place. My information is that a chairman has been appointed, but the other members are yet to be given their instruments for the operationalization of this tribunal. Madam President, this tribunal is supposed to be a tripartite tribunal: labor, business, and government. And it's a quasi-judicial body. It is my understanding that as at the end of November of last year, the number of outstanding matters before this tribunal stood at around 1,170. And that number has been increasing, Madam President. Some of these cases are over 10 years. Madam President, in the process, several citizens have died awaiting for their matters to be heard at the level of the tribunal, because the tribunal deals with not only medical but non-medical matters. Madam President, the National Insurance Appeals Board is governed by an act, which is the National Insurance Act, Chapter 3201. This particular tribunal, Madam President, deals with the receiving, processing, hearing, and determining appeals from persons who are dissatisfied with any decision of the National Insurance Board in respect of claims for benefits and or other matters under that body's jurisdiction. Madam President, this body or tribunal is an independent quasi-judicial body and is not under the direct control of the National Insurance Board or any other state agency or government department. The tribunal is comprised of a chairman and 3 members representing government, business, and labor, appointed by Her Excellency the President. Madam President, the Act requires the Chief Medical Officer to advise the tribunal on medical matters generally, and this tribunal is administered by a registrar and other support personnel. Madam President, this tribunal appeared before what is called a Joint Select Committee back in 2013, and several recommendations were made during that period. And the minister, I do not know if he has seen this Joint Select Committee report, but there are several recommendations that were made. But the key issue here, Madam President, is why has it taken so long to get this tribunal properly appointed and in place? And Madam President, as I indicated earlier, there are thousands of outstanding matters that are supposed to be heard by this particular tribunal. And citizens who have to appear before that tribunal to get justice, they cannot do it, because my information is that from November of last year, that tribunal has been non-functional. And whilst the Minister of Finance is the individual responsible for at least an oversight role and responsibility, and I also believe, and the Minister will have to advise, he is the person who appoints these individuals or make sure that the committee or tribunal rather is properly in place. The chairman is appointed by the Minister of Finance, I understand, and of course labor, business, and government would have their representatives on that tribunal. But to date, I am very saddened that a very important institution and body like this one does not have its full complement of personnel, and citizens are at a disadvantage as a result of this particular development. So I am calling on the Honourable Minister of Finance to bring this Parliament up to speed with what is the current status of this tribunal. When is this tribunal going to begin functioning once again? Or has it begun to function and I'm not aware? And that is why I have brought this matter to the attention of this Honourable Senate, so that we can get some answers from the relevant authorities as to what is taking place with this very important body called the National Insurance Appeals Tribunal, Madam President. So I'm looking forward to getting some clarification from the government as to the status of this tribunal, because it is very important for citizens who have grievances with the National Insurance Board, and they have to go to this tribunal for some degree of justice and fairness. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. In that long discourse, I didn't hear the fact that the President of the Tribunal is appointed by His Excellency or Her Excellency the President. And if Honorable Senator Mark had done his research, he'd have discovered that the previous chairman was made a judge and as a result could no longer function as chairman of the National Insurance Appeals Tribunal. And we all had to wait on His Excellency as opposed to Her Excellency to appoint a new chairman. And that was done just about a month ago. And the other appointments, the instruments of appointments are currently being finalized and will be sent to Her Excellency to be signed shortly.
Senator Mark.
You good now?
Madam President, I would like to, I'd like to raise another very important matter. It deals with the fact that in 2017, we debated a very important bill called the Fire Service Amendment Bill 2017. And this bill, as you would recall, Madam President, provided for fire officers who had acted in a higher office for a continuous period of at least 3 years immediately prior to the date of his or her compulsory retirement, or on which he proceeds on annual leave before the date of his compulsory retirement, shall be eligible to have his pension, gratuity, or other allowance calculated as if he was substantively appointed to that higher office. Once the fire officer, Madam President, satisfies these requirements, the fire service would be required to make payments, and once the necessary contributions, were made payable, that and the arrears calculated in terms of outstanding contribution, then the person would receive a higher pension because of the position that the person would have acted in during the period prior to his compulsory retirement. Now, Madam President, I have been advised that since the passage of this piece of legislation in 2017, and it was effected, Madam President, it took effect from the 1st of January of 2008, and it was applicable to officers of the 1st Division and officers of the 2nd Division of the fire services. What has happened, Madam President, is this. Since this bill was passed, there has been no implementation of this particular measure, so that the officers in question have not received their enhanced pensions. So officers are still awaiting directives from the Ministry of Finance as well as the Ministry of National Security in order to receive their pensions on an enhanced level. Now, Madam President, you know, every year, hundreds of officers or scores of officers would retire from the fire service. When they retire and they do not have access to this enhanced pension arrangement, and some of them may even expire, it is an injustice that is being done to these fire officers and firefighters and their families. Pension is an entitlement that people earn because they defer that income for several years, and when they retire, they need to get their pension. So while they are getting their pensions, we are saying that a bill was debated in this Parliament in order to enhance their pensions. And as I said, Madam President, if these officers were acting in a higher post and they reached compulsory retirement age, they would have been paid their retirement in the last post that they acted in. And therefore, why has it taken so long for the government to effect this measure so that the firefighters can enjoy their enhanced pensions? And that is why I have brought this matter to the attention of the Honorable Senate so that the Minister of National Security can provide the firefighters and the Senate with some explanation as to what has happened and when these firefighters who have left the service would in fact be in receipt, Madam President, of their enhanced pensions. So I look forward to a proper explanation for this inexplicable delay in providing these officers with their enhanced pensions, Madam President. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, I've never heard so much hypocrisy. I've never heard so much hypocrisy by Senator Marcus showing care for the fire service officers. Care and attention for the fire service officers. Madam President, since 2012, the members of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services has been articulating for this bill, for some government to do something for them, Madam President. Since 2012, nothing happened. 2013, nothing happened. 14, nothing happened. 15, nothing happened. 16, it was this government, this cabinet who approved the measures as brought by the Minister of National Security. It is this government who brought it to the House and passed it, and passed this measure on the 21st of April. This government had brought it to this House, to the Senate, and passed it on the 25th of May 2017. This government that did this, not the last government who took more than 3 years. The members of the fire service were calling your government, about 5 ministers of national security. They can't remember which minister they spoke with. This minister ensured that it was brought to the House and passed. And so measures are being taken right now to deal with the issues. This government did it. This minister did it. Not you. Hypocrisy. Although you care for them, you had no care that time. You didn't care.
All right.
You did not care that time for the fire officers, did you?
Minister, please. I understand that it is getting late. Senator Mark, Minister, please. I would ask for some decorum as we near the end of this sitting. So please, Minister, continue.
Help, Madam President, because you didn't care those days when you sat down there. You didn't care. But let me tell you what they're doing right now. The measures are being taken to ensure that this government cares about the firemen and women. Being taken right now. Because it's being done in 3 phases right now. They have now doing the research. So far, they've identified more than 600-700 fire officers who will fall into the category. Phase 2 is to do the audit and then the payment. That's being taken care of right now. It's as sure as ever they're going to be done. There's a system and there's a process to be followed. And that is being done. That is being done. Which you call a good government, a responsible government. This is what is happening right now. Yes?
Minister, continue.
Compared to nothing. You have a lot of... Senator Mark. Plenty time on your hands. Plenty times in your hands. Anyhow, Madam President, I can assure you, and I can assure the country, and I can assure the members of Trinidad Fire Service that this government will ensure that they get what they deserve.
That's right.
And before I close, Madam President, let me end on a good note. Let me take the opportunity to wish every mother in the house and every mother in Trinidad and Tobago a very wonderful and blessed Mother's Day, and may they enjoy it with their family and friends. I thank you very much, Madam President.
Honorable Senators, the question is that this Senate... Honorable Senators, the question is that this Senate do now adjourn to Tuesday, the 15th of May, 2018 at 10 a.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against say no. The ayes have it. This Senate now stands adjourned. It's not adjourned as yet. This Senate now stands adjourned to Tuesday, the 15th of May, 2018 at 10 a.m.